Hi, my name's Natasha. Welcome to this PTE practice test. In this video, you'll get the opportunity to answer PTE questions and then I'll explain the answers to you. This video covers a variety of question types from all three sections of the test: speaking and writing, reading, and listening. The practice questions are designed at the same level of difficulty as the actual PTE test questions. And for each question, there will be an overview, practice, and answer explanations. If you've never taken a PTE test before, then don't worry. This video gives you a great overview of the test and you have the chance to practice yourself. Okay, let's begin with questions from the PTE speaking and writing section. The speaking and writing section is the longest part of the test. This section mainly tests your speaking and writing skills, but you may also have to use other skills like reading or listening. In this video, we're going to focus on 4 speaking question types. The first of these is read aloud. This question counts for both your speaking and reading communicative skill scores. Here's what it looks like. On the screen, you'll see instructions, the recording status box, and a short paragraph which you need to read aloud once the recording timer begins. You'll have between 30 and 40 seconds to read the text and think about how you'll read the text aloud. The recording status counts down this time until you have to start speaking. You'll hear a short tone like this, and after that, the microphone opens and you need to start speaking. Don't start speaking before the microphone opens because it won't be recorded. You should read the paragraph aloud as clearly and as naturally as you can. Read aloud has partial scoring. You get points depending on how well you do based on 3 criteria. Content, you need to read the text exactly as it's written. Pronunciation, you need to say the words clearly and correctly and use correct stress and intonation. And fluency, you need to read the text smoothly, pausing in appropriate places and avoid hesitating too much. Now, it's time for you to try one. Remember to use the preparation time to go through the text. Then after the tone, speak clearly and fluently. The preparation time starts now. How did you go with this first question? It's a pretty straightforward question type. Let's have another look. For read aloud questions like this one, my first tip is that during the preparation time, instead of just reading the words in your head, it's better to whisper the text out loud as you read. Whispering aloud helps you prepare to speak and also helps you check your pronunciation of difficult words. The first sentence reads, "Living in Victoria's Goulburn Valley is pretty good." Some words like Goulburn might be challenging to pronounce, so you may want to say them a few times. You can also check your word stress is correct on words with more than one syllable, like the word Victoria's, where the stress needs to be on the second syllable. Another tip during your prep time is to try to notice punctuation such as commas and full stops. Using small pauses where this punctuation occurs will help you read fluently and naturally, and as a result, increase your score. Let's listen to a high-scoring sample answer to this question.
Living in Victoria's Goulburn Valley is pretty good. There's lots of space, fresh country air, and then there's the fruit, which this part of the country is famous for. But now many of the local farmers are struggling because it is cheaper to import fruit from overseas than it is to grow it locally.
Does that sound like what you said? The speaker here has done a pretty good job with content. She didn't skip, change, or add any words. Also, did you notice that the speaker pronounced the words well with correct stress, pauses, and intonation? Listen again to the second sentence. As you listen, notice how the pauses match both the meaning of the text and the punctuation. She pauses where there are commas and also briefly at the end of the sentence. Listen carefully.
There's lots of space, fresh country air, and then there's the fruit, which this part of the country is famous for.
So I think this candidate has done quite a good job and has probably scored quite well in the 3 areas of content, pronunciation, and fluency. Use your preparation time effectively and you can score well in these areas too. And if you need help with your pronunciation, sign up for a free trial at E2 Test Prep. You'll get access to lots of practice activities, and you can also join pronunciation live classes where you can learn from an expert teacher to improve your pronunciation. Let's move on to the next question type, repeat sentence. In this task, you'll hear a sentence once only, and then you need to say it. When the audio of the sentence finishes, the microphone opens immediately. There's no beep or tone, so make sure you start talking into the microphone as soon as it opens. Like in Read Aloud, you'll get points for content, pronunciation, and fluency. Try to repeat exactly what you heard and be clear and accurate. So, on the screen, you can see the instructions which say, you will hear a sentence. Please repeat the sentence exactly as you hear it. You will hear the sentence only once. The first box under the instructions shows you when the audio recording will start. When it begins to play, you'll see the status or how much time is left for the audio. After the audio finishes, the microphone will open. There's a status bar in this box too. It changes to recording, and that's when you need to start speaking. Let's try answering a question now. Remember to listen for the words and pay attention to the rhythm and stress the speaker uses. Speak fluently and with correct pronunciation. Remember to repeat the sentence once the status changes to recording. Ready?
Many young people are struggling to get work experience at the moment.
Okay, how did you go? You probably realized you need to listen very carefully to the sentence. If you don't hear it properly, you won't be able to say it correctly. Make sure you understand what the speaker says and try to listen for the parts that are being stressed. These are the parts said a little bit louder or longer. Notice how the words young, struggling, work, and moment are all stressed. These words help the natural rhythm of the sentence.
Many young people are struggling to get work experience at the moment.
The sentence can be broken into 2 phrases or parts. You can hear this in the rhythm.
Many young people are struggling to get work experience at the moment.
So, when you answer this type of question, listen to both what the speaker says and how they say it. Practice by listening to other audio and recording yourself speaking. Then, check your own fluency and pronunciation to see if it sounds the same. The next question type is describe image. This is a bit more challenging than the previous 2 questions because for this one, you are shown an image and then you have to use your own words to describe it. On the screen, there are some instructions, a recording status box, and the image you have to describe. For this question, you could see one of a few types of images, such as a picture, a diagram, or process, some type of graph, a table of information, or even a map. You'll have 25 seconds to study the image and prepare. You'll then hear a short tone that sounds like this. The microphone will open, and then you should start speaking. You'll have 40 seconds to describe the image. You'll be scored on the content of your response, your pronunciation, and your fluency. So, these criteria are the same as those in the read aloud and repeat sentence tasks, and you'll have 3 or 4 of these questions on test day. It's worth noting that the content scoring criteria is a little different in this question than it was in the earlier ones. That's because here, you need to use your own language to describe the main elements in the image. For your content score, make sure you describe all the important things you see in the picture and also important relationships between elements in the image. Also think about any changes or developments and finish with a conclusion by giving a summary or saying something about what you think might happen next. Of course, you don't have to describe the picture absolutely perfectly, and a few ums and ahs are pretty normal when you're describing what you see. Have a go at this task, and then we'll go through a sample response. Start speaking after the tone. Your preparation time starts now. So, how did you go with that one? 25 seconds to prepare and 40 seconds to speak goes pretty quickly, doesn't it? Have a look at the image again. I'll show you some of the key elements to include for a good content score in this question. So we know this image shows a market. Some of the key elements are the building and structures, the people who are doing different things, and the features of the market and environment. Because this is a static image, there may not be any clear changes or developments to highlight. However, the composition or layout of the image and key actions of the people in the image are important content features. You can describe relationships between the people and the place. And you might want to think about a conclusion. After describing the different elements and relationships in the image, you could finish by saying something to summarize the entire image. Let's listen to an example response to this question. You can read through the transcript as you listen.
This image depicts a building named Market Square. The market is busy with many people walking, standing, and sitting. In the foreground, people are sitting at long benches. Directly in front of the market, people are standing and walking. At the front on the right of the building, there's some women's clothing for sale and artwork below. On the left at the front, there's a variety of trinkets. It's unclear what is inside the market, but it doesn't appear to be food. The building has a triangular roof with several chimneys or wind tunnels along its length. Behind the building is an elevated road. In conclusion, the scene shows a busy market with people shopping and relaxing.
So this is a pretty good response. There is some repetition of words or phrases. He mentions that the people are sitting and standing a couple of times, for example. But his pronunciation is clear, and even though he has quite a fast pace, he speaks fluently without hesitation. Notice the content and organization of this response. The candidate described the picture and used language to say where things were located in the image. He talked about the building, the people, and the objects, and what the people in the picture were doing. He then went on to give extra details about the style of the building and what was behind it. He ended with a conclusion summarizing the entire image. I'd recommend doing some practice with this type of question so that you can effectively use the 25-second preparation time and say everything within the 40-second speaking time. Try to find different kinds of images to practice with this too. The last question type we'll practice for the speaking and writing section is answer short question. It pretty much is what its name suggests. You'll hear a short question and you need to answer that question. You only have 10 seconds to answer, so one word or a few words is all you need to provide. For this question, you are scored on whether your answer is accurate and appropriate to the question. On the screen, you'll see instructions, an audio player, and a recorded answer box. Sometimes this question may have an image that relates to the question, but not always. Once the question audio finishes playing, the microphone opens and you need to say your answer immediately. Okay, are you ready to have a go at this task yourself? Remember, you don't need to answer in a full sentence. One word or a few words is all you need. You won't have time for more. Have a go, and then we'll go through it together. Ready? Here's the question.
What is the name of the emergency vehicle that takes sick people to hospital?
How did you go? Did you hear and understand the question? So the question was, what is the name of the emergency vehicle that takes sick people to hospital? One tip when you're doing this question is to listen for key words in the question. These words will help you answer it correctly. For example, the words emergency vehicle, sick people, and hospital all help you understand what the question is actually asking and direct you to the correct answer. Even if you don't know or hear some of the key words in the question, you may still be able to make a good guess. For example, even if you only heard vehicle and hospital, you could probably make a good guess about the answer. And remember, you don't need to answer in a full sentence. You can just say the word or phrase needed to answer the question. So you could have answered this question with one word, ambulance, or you may have answered an ambulance. Both are correct. It's good to think about what answers would not be appropriate here too. For example, the question asks for the name of the emergency vehicle that takes sick people to hospital. If your answer was emergency vehicle, this would be inappropriate. Even though your meaning is kind of correct, you'd be using the same words that are in the question, so it would be incorrect. If your answer was doctor, this would be incorrect too. The question does not ask about the person who helps sick people. It asks for the name of the vehicle. Also, if you answered police car, this would be incorrect as well. It is a type of emergency vehicle, but it's not the type of vehicle that takes sick people to hospital. For this task, make sure you focus on the question. It's designed to test everyday vocabulary. It's not a test of expert knowledge. If you would like more speaking practice questions, assessments, or mock tests, check out e2testprep.com and sign up for free. Okay, let's move on to the next section of the PTE exam, the reading section. There are 5 different question types, including one that tests both reading and writing. This part of the test takes 29 to 30 minutes on test day. The first question type we're looking at is called multiple choice, multiple answers. For this question, you'll read a text and then you'll answer a multiple choice question about the information in the text by selecting more than one response from a list. You need to select all the options that are correct, so make sure you pick more than one answer option. On the screen, you'll see some instructions at the top, the reading text on the left, and the question prompt, and answer options on the right. It's important that you're aware of the scoring for this question type. Remember, you have to select more than one answer based on the information in the text. You get 1 point for each correct answer choice, but you lose a point for every incorrect choice until you reach 0. So you really have to choose carefully here. The text for this question type can be up to 300 words long. I'd recommend starting this task by reading through the whole text very quickly so you can get a general idea of what it's about. Then read the question and look at the answer options as you look for the details in the text. As you go through each answer, try to look for words that are the same in the text and the options, or words that have the same or similar meaning. It's also helpful to think about which options are incorrect. This helps you find the correct answers. So now it's your turn. You should take about 2 to 3 minutes on this question type. Good luck! How is that? As I mentioned, you have to eliminate the incorrect answers and select the correct ones. You're trying to choose the answers that say the same thing as what's in the text. But remember, the option wording and the text wording are not going to be exactly the same. Let's have a look at the answers. Okay, we know from the instructions that the topic is light pollution. And we know from the question that we need to find the problems with light pollution based on what's in the text. There are 5 possible problems in the options list, and we know that more than one is correct. So the first option says, health problems in humans. So you need to look for information in the text about health problems and about humans or people. If you look at this paragraph, it says something about people spending money and creating pollution, but it doesn't say anything about health. You need to keep looking. Here, it says light pollution can have a serious effect on people's health. Right, so that's talking about health problems. It's saying the same thing as option 1, isn't it? This option is correct. The second option says people sleeping longer. And here it says something about sleeping. It says sleep problems are one major issue. So it is saying something about sleep and problems, but it's not actually saying anything about sleeping longer. This option is incorrect. Okay, let's look at the next one. The question reads, problems with light pollution include trees dying. Did you find the bit in the text about trees? It's here and it says, some trees may not react to seasons in the normal way. So it's saying trees are not reacting normally, but that doesn't mean that the trees are dying, right? This option can also be eliminated. So we found one correct option and two incorrect ones. That must mean that at least one of the remaining two options is correct. So option 4 says, people not getting enough energy. Here's where the text mentions people and energy. It says, some cities are asking people to turn off their lights to save energy. So here it's saying people will use less energy, but it's not saying this is a problem due to light pollution. This option is incorrect. One more to check. The last answer is, problems with light pollution include birds getting lost. Did you find the bit in the text about birds? It's here, and it says, light can affect birds too and make them lose their way when they are migrating. That has the same meaning as option 5. This option is also correct. So for this particular question, there are two correct answers, the first and fifth options. How did you go? Did you choose the two correct options and eliminate the three incorrect ones? One strategy is to try selecting all the answers you think are correct, or you might want to be more careful and only choose the answers you're really sure about. Decide which approach works best for you. Remember, you can get access to more multiple choice, choose multiple answer practice questions at e2testprep.com. Sign up for free today. So the next reading question for this practice test will be fill in the blanks. In this task, you'll read a text that has some words missing from it. You have to select the correct words to complete the text. Here's what it looks like. You'll see the instructions and a short reading passage with some gaps in the sentences. At the bottom is a box with a list of words that you'll use to fill in the blanks in the text. You can drag and drop the word into the right place. Notice that there are more words in this box than there are gaps, so you'll have to choose the correct word carefully. You'll receive a point for each correct word in each blank, and you'll see 4 to 5 of these questions on test day. So, this task is pretty straightforward, but you do have to think about a few things when you're choosing the correct word for each blank. Each word needs to make sense within the actual sentence. The meaning has to make sense, and the word has to fit grammatically. For example, you might find a blank that might be a noun, not an adjective. Okay, try this question yourself, and then I'll take you through the answers. You should spend up to 2 minutes on this. Okay, how did you go? The text is about an unusual topic, right? Anti-fairy tales. Pretty interesting. So, did you put the right words in the blank to complete the task? Let's go through the answers. Look at the first blank in the first sentence. An anti-fairy tale is a tale which, unlike an ordinary one, has a rather than a happy ending. So here the words rather than are going to be helpful. They show that we are comparing two different things. This rather than that. This sentence is comparing types of endings. It says a something rather than a happy ending. So we need a word with an opposite meaning to the adjective happy. The word tragic is the correct answer for this blank. It's an adjective and it has a similar meaning to sad, so its meaning is opposite to happy. The next gap comes here. While fairy tales paint a magical, perfect world, anti-fairy tales paint a dark world of and cruelty. So we know we need a word that connects to and cruelty. The word cruelty is a noun, so we're looking for another noun. Well, happiness is a noun. Anti-fairy tales paint a dark world of happiness and cruelty? Well, that doesn't make sense with a meaning in this sentence. We need a word to describe the world of anti-fairy tales. Here the answer is nastiness. Nastiness and cruelty. Did you choose the correct word? Actually, this is a great way to approach these questions. For each blank, go through the different word options, try them in the sentence, and think about how they sound and what they mean. Even though some words will fit grammatically, remember that the meaning might not make sense. Let's look at the next blank. So this sentence lists some of the topics in anti-fairy tales. Such stories incorporate horror, comedy, mean-spirited practical jokes. If you look at the wording here and the punctuation, you can see we need a word before comedy, an adjective to describe the kind of comedy it is. There are two remaining adjectives in the list, boring and black. The correct answer here is black comedy. This answer relies on your knowledge of the meaning of this term. Black comedy is about unpleasant things but done in a funny way. This meaning matches the description of anti-fairy tales, so this answer is correct. So, there's one more blank, but there are still 4 words to choose from. Remember that there are more words than blanks for this question. So the last blank is here. Mean-spirited practical jokes, cruel plot, and biting satire. We can see the adjective cruel here, so we know we need a noun here. The nouns remaining in the list are twists, events, and happiness. The correct answer is twists. Plot twists describe an unexpected change in a story's plot or direction. Plot events fits grammatically, but this is not a collocation. So, how did you go with this? Remember, this is a test of your understanding of both meaning and grammar. You'll also have to rely on your understanding of vocabulary and collocation. Before test day, try to develop your vocabulary knowledge by reading a variety of text types. Focus on the way words are used together in the text. And if you'd like more opportunities to practice fill-in-the-blanks questions, head on over to E2 Test Prep and sign up for our free trial. Okay, we have one last type of question to look at in the reading section. It's multiple choice, single answer. For this question type, you'll read a text and answer a multiple choice question by selecting one correct answer from a set of options. This question is pretty similar to the multiple choice, multiple answers question, but the reading passage is usually shorter. You'll have 1 or 2 of these questions in the test. Here's what it looks like. You can see the reading text on the left and the instructions and question on the right. In the instructions, it tells you only one response is correct. Below the instructions is the task question, and under that are 5 options. Make sure you read the question carefully to understand what kind of information you need to find. The question might ask about the general topic of the reading text, or you might be asked to find a specific detail in the text. You could also be asked a question about the purpose of the text. So make sure you understand what kind of information you're looking for. Are you ready to try this? Have a go. Try to answer in 1 to 1.5 minutes. Then I'll talk you through the answer. Right. How was that? Was it helpful to read and understand the question before you read the passage? Let's look at the answer. Look at the first option. They were lost. The passage says they were traveling to Antarctica and the weather deteriorated. But there's nothing in the text about the men being lost. This option is incorrect, so we can eliminate it. The second option is the ship was stuck in ice. Here is something about ice. It says, the Endurance was trapped in ice and the crew had to abandon the ship. Okay, this sounds like what the question is asking about, but it does rely on your ability to understand meaning from different wording. This sentence talks about the Endurance, which we know from earlier in the passage is the name of the ship. It says it was trapped in ice. Here, the word trapped has pretty much the same meaning as stuck. The sentence also says the crew had to abandon. The meaning is the same as the option, even though the words are different. Crew is a word used to describe the people working on a ship, and abandon is another word that means leave. So this option is saying that the men had to leave the ship. This is the correct answer. When you're taking the test, you might find the correct answer in the first or second options, but it's always important that you check all the options to confirm that your choice is correct. Look at the third option. The ship was destroyed. Notice that this happened after the men left the ship. It's not the reason why they left the ship. So this option is not correct. And that is the same reason why option 4 is not correct. The last option says, due to bad weather. You can see that there is no direct link between the weather deteriorating and the men leaving the ship. This option is incorrect. So, this question really tests your understanding of a text. The strategy of checking each response and eliminating ones that don't match the meaning is a good way to be confident in the option choice you make on test day. So try to give yourself time to check every option well. That's the end of the reading part of the test. We're now going to move on to the third and final part of the test, listening. The listening questions are based on audio or video clips. They will begin to play automatically, and you only hear each audio or video clip once. There's a lot to listen for when you're doing this part of the test, but you are allowed to take notes. I strongly recommend you do this because your notes will help you keep track of all the information you're listening for in order to answer the questions. The first listening question we're looking at today is multiple choice, multiple answers. We already looked at a task that's pretty similar in the reading section. Here, you'll listen to a recording rather than read a text. You'll only hear the recording once. Like the reading task, for this one, you'll get a question prompt and need to select more than one correct answer from a list of options. Here's what it looks like. On the screen, you'll see the instructions, the question prompt, and options under that. And on the right is an audio box. You can see that this example is going to be an audio recording, but on test day, you might have a question that is a video recording instead. You'll only have a few seconds to prepare before the recording starts, so use this time to read the instructions and the question prompt. One tip for this question type is to take notes while you listen to the recording. This is really helpful because you can't listen and read the question and options at the same time. If you try to do that, you'll end up missing information in the audio. So just listen and take notes. Note down the main points as well as any supporting details such as dates, times, places, names, or events. Then use your notes to answer the question once the recording has finished. You'll see one or two of these tasks on test day. Choose your answers carefully because this question type has negative marking. This means that you'll get 1 point for a correct answer, but you'll lose 1 point for an incorrect answer. You won't ever be less than 0 though. Also, remember that you need to select more than one correct answer for this question type. Like the reading task, you should check each option carefully. Eliminate the incorrect ones to help you confirm that you have chosen the correct responses. Okay, are you ready? Have a listen and try answering the questions.
Pamela Lyndon Travers was born in Queensland, Australia in 1899 and lived well into her 90s. She was a writer best known for the Mary Poppins series of children's books, which feature the magical English nanny Mary Poppins. In her early career, Travers worked briefly as a secretary, then a touring actress, before becoming a writer for various Australian publications. After moving to England in 1924, aged 25, she wrote the first Mary Poppins book, going on to write 7 more over the ensuing years. The books were extremely popular and were especially loved by the daughter of Walt Disney. From the 1940s, Disney attempted many times to try and secure the rights for a movie adaptation of Mary Poppins, before finally succeeding 2 decades later. The film was released in 1964 and won many awards. A musical based on the books and film opened in 2004 in the West End, London, followed by Broadway in New York in 2006. In 2013, the film Saving Mr. Banks, based largely on the conflict between Travers and Disney, was released. This was followed in 2018 by Mary Poppins Returns, a sequel to the original movie.
How was that? There's a lot of information to listen to in the recording, right? I hope you took notes that helped you to select the correct answer options. Let's go through the answers. Okay, the question asks, which of the following statements agree with what the speaker says about Mary Poppins? This is an interesting question because the name Mary Poppins is in italics. Italics are often used for titles of books and films. So even though Mary Poppins is a name, you have to listen carefully to know that the speaker is actually talking about a series of books. The speaker talks about the author's life, when she wrote the books, and their various adaptations over the years. Now look at the first option. It says, it was originally a movie and was later made into a book. Well, the audio mentioned both books and films, but which came first? Here the speaker says, from the 1940s, Disney attempted many times to try and secure the rights for a movie adaptation of Mary Poppins before finally succeeding 2 decades later. So, this tells us that Disney wanted to turn her books into a film. The option says the movie came before the book, so it is not correct. The second option is, it was a series of books that later became a movie and a musical. Here it says, the film was released in 1964 and won many awards. A musical based on the books and film opened in 2004 in the West End, London, followed by Broadway in New York in 2006. Okay, so these films and the musical all happened after the books, so this option is correct. We already knew from eliminating the first option that the movie came after the books. But when checking option 2, you still had to make sure the part about the musical is correct as well. Option 3 says the author was born in England and she later moved to Australia. The speaker says Pamela Lyndon Travers was born in Queensland, Australia, and later says after moving to England in 1924, so this option is not correct. We can eliminate it. The next option is Disney was able to quickly secure the rights to make a movie based on the book. It does say something about Disney wanting to secure the rights to make the film, but look at the entire sentence and the full meaning of what it says here. The sentence is, Disney attempted many times to try and secure the rights for a movie adaptation of Mary Poppins before finally succeeding 2 decades later. The phrases attempted many times, finally succeeding, and 2 decades later all tell us that it took Disney quite a long time to secure the rights to make a movie, so this option is incorrect. Let's look at the last option. We know from our process of elimination that this one should be correct because we've only chosen one correct answer so far, but you should still check it carefully. Right. This last option says, it was a series of books targeted at children. And here it says, she was a writer best known for the Mary Poppins series of children's books. So this answer is correct. This question has 2 correct answers, the second and fifth responses. So that's how to answer this type of question. I definitely recommend doing some practice questions in our PTE course at e2testprep.com. The next question type is multiple choice, choose single answer. For this task, you'll listen to an audio recording or watch a video and then answer a question by selecting one correct response from the list of options. On the screen, you'll see the instructions at the top with the question prompt and options under that. There's also a box with the audio recording and the status bar. You'll have a few seconds to read the instructions and the question prompt before the recording starts. The question asks, what does the speaker say about stories? This information is helpful because it tells us the topic is stories. There are 1 or 2 of these questions in the test. You will receive a point for selecting the correct option. This question type can test a variety of skills. The question can check your understanding of the overall idea in the recording. It might check how good you are at locating a specific piece of information or understanding the speaker's feelings about something. The question could also be about identifying the reasons why someone says something. Remember, you'll only hear the recording once, so take notes while you're listening. Also, make sure you check all the options. Eliminate the incorrect ones and check you have one correct answer selected. Okay, try this question for yourself and then I'll be back to go through the answers.
Seen in every culture, used throughout the centuries, and understood from even the youngest age, stories are a powerful tool for both teaching and learning. Great leaders in past eras have built empires, founded religions, and even inspired nations by the stories they've told. Similarly, when it comes to engaging Gen Y, never underestimate the power of narrative. A postmodern generation is nowhere near as interested in whether something is right as they are in whether something works. The best way to show that a principle works is to place it in the context of experience through stories.
So the question was, what does the speaker say about stories? Let's check the answer. The first option is, unfortunately, stories don't work very well with Gen Y. But look at the transcript. It says, when it comes to engaging Gen Y, never underestimate the power of narrative. The word narrative has a similar meaning to story. The sentence says, never underestimate, meaning that we should not think something is smaller or, in this case, less powerful than it really is. So this option is incorrect. Stories do work well for Gen Y. So option 2 is, important rulers and generals have used stories effectively in the past. Here the recording says, great leaders in past eras have built empires, founded religions, and even inspired nations by the stories they've told. Leaders can refer to rulers and generals, and it says they use stories effectively. The audio says the leaders have done good things using stories. These meanings match. This option is correct. So we've found the one correct answer, but we should still make sure it's correct by checking and eliminating all the other options. The third option is, narrative has become less effective in modern times. Well, the first sentence in this audio says something very different. It says, seen in every culture, used throughout the centuries, and understood from even the youngest age, stories are a powerful tool for both teaching and learning. The meaning here is that stories were and still are effective. This option is incorrect. So, the last option relies on your vocabulary skills and you listening to the context of what's being said. It says, some generations don't like to work at understanding stories. To work at something means you have to make an effort to try hard. This sentence says something about work. A postmodern generation is nowhere near as interested in whether something is right as they are in whether something works. But this just means they're interested in whether something succeeds. This is not the same meaning as the last option, so that option is also incorrect. How did you go? Try to get in some practice with listening for different kinds of information and tone of voice as you prepare for test day. Okay, the next question type is select missing word. This listening task is pretty fun. Like other listening tasks, you'll listen to a recording or watch a video. But in this question type, the recording ends with a beep before the speaker says the last word or words. There's a list of options to complete the recording, and your job is to select the most appropriate one. This task is a bit different because you have to predict what someone is going to say next. On the screen, you'll see the instructions, a list of options, and the box for the recording. There are 1 or 2 of these questions in the test. You will receive a point for selecting the correct option. So, have a go with this question and then I'll take you through the answer.
We all face multiple stresses in our daily lives. These could include clashes with family members or friends, a difficult commute, tight deadlines at work, and multiple chores at home. Most of these stresses tend to last a limited amount of time, and therefore we are able to cope with their volume and frequency. On the other hand, there are stresses known as chronic stresses, which can last for a very long or even infinite periods of time. These are factors such as being unemployed, being underemployed, having chronic or permanent health issues, or living in poverty. Those suffering from chronic stress could experience symptoms such as low energy, insomnia, and emotional withdrawal. Chronic stress has also been linked to other conditions such as depression, anxiety, heart disease, high blood pressure, and gastrointestinal problems. Therefore, it is important for anyone suffering from high levels of stress to
How did you go with this question? Were you ready for the end of the recording when it came? Did you manage to take some helpful notes? The first option is face health issues. The sentence would be, therefore, it is important for anyone suffering from high levels of stress to face health issues. Well, that doesn't make sense because the sentence is making a suggestion about doing something to deal with high stress, and facing health issues wouldn't help with that, nor is it something people can choose to do. This option is incorrect. Now, let's take a look at the second option in the sentence. Therefore, it is important for anyone suffering from high levels of stress to have chronic stress. That makes no sense here because it would be saying that it's important for people with stress to have stress. This option doesn't add new information to the sentence, so it's incorrect too. The third option would be, therefore, it is important for anyone suffering from high levels of stress to see a doctor. Well, that makes sense. The speaker talked about a range of health problems resulting from stress. A suggestion for someone with high stress levels to go see a doctor is a logical suggestion. The meaning of this option in this sentence is correct. The option is correct. To be sure of our choice, we need to also check option 4. Option 4 is, therefore, it is important for anyone suffering from high levels of stress to take pain medication. The second last sentence could trip you up here. It says, chronic stress has also been linked to other conditions such as depression, anxiety, heart disease, high blood pressure, and gastrointestinal problems. So there is some mention of health conditions. But even though the speaker talks about a lot of health problems related to stress, the focus is not on pain. And so take pain medication is not appropriate for the context of this recording. This option is incorrect. Okay, after checking all the options, you can see that one fits well and the others don't work. So on test day, listen carefully to follow the main topic and the details. Then focus on the meaning of each option to eliminate the incorrect ones and find the correct one. Let's now move on to the final question type, write from dictation. This task is similar to the repeat sentence task you saw in the speaking section, but instead of saying the sentence that you hear, you have to type the sentence you hear. Let me show you. So the instructions are at the top of the screen. Notice they say that you'll hear the sentence only once. There are cut, copy, and paste buttons that you can use as you type. The audio will start and you will hear a single sentence. Your task is to type the sentence that you hear into the box. So, try to type the exact same words in the same order as the spoken sentence. After you finish typing, reread the sentence to check you didn't skip any words and check for any spelling errors. Are you ready? Listen and write.
Register online if you would like to receive further information.
Did you hear the sentence and get all of the words right? So this is the sentence you heard.
Register online if you would like to receive further information.
And this is what you needed to type in the response box. Register online if you would like to receive further information. Did you get that? If not, here's a few tips to help. First, try to listen really carefully so you actually understand the sentence. When it makes sense to you, it will be easier to remember. Start typing as soon as the audio finishes so you can get every word you remember into the text box. Don't worry too much about spelling or grammar at this point. You can check this later. After you finish typing the sentence, check and edit it. Read your sentence and make sure there are no missing words. Check that your grammar and spelling are correct too. And finally, remember, this is the last question type of the test and your time might be running out. So do your checking quickly before the test finishes. And that's it. Well done. We've now finished this PTE practice test. You should now have a much better understanding of how the test works, what kinds of questions you'll face, and what skills you need for each task. Remember, if you're needing help or are looking for more practice material, sign up for free at e2testprep.com. Best of luck!